So, ready to fall in love with your life? Ready to live your best life possible? Ready to remember that anything is possible for you and that you deserve and are worthy of the greatest experiences you could ever think of? Then join me in this conversation with our next guest. Leon Perry, thank you so much for being on my podcast because you are someone who has totally embodied like the authentic self from my perspective. And it's been so amazing to witness because from my perspective, this is from my perspective, which is maybe not yours, and we can dive into that, and I'm excited to do that. But from my perspective, has taken a lot of bravery and courage to step into, this is who I am, and this is how I want to express myself, and this is how I want to feel about my life, and this is how I want you to see me, and this is how I want the world to know me, and this is how I want to know the world. Like, to me, it's brave because it is, again, I don't know if the word is transitioning in terms of gender identity, but when I met you over a decade ago, you were Leon Perry. You were this strong, tall, black man from the South and from California, but who had this preacher quality and had something to say. And I was really drawn to that. And what I see before me now is this beautiful black woman, I'm not sure, but you are this beautiful black being that has this gorgeous hair and has this courage and authority and no, I know me. And that comes with such stability and strength and also encouragement and motivation for other people. Like, that's what I see coming from your channel is how many people are drawn to your inspiration and your motivation. And so I'm just so excited to have you here because I want to support people and I want to highlight your story because I feel like obviously you can and have been supporting a lot of people. So let's dive in.
Sounds good.
So thanks for being here. I really appreciate it and taking the time. And so the first question I like to start with people is, do you love your life?
Life is a challenge, you know that. And I think within that challenge is why I love life, because it pushes you to really expand and to form critical thinking and to really go through the ups and downs and come out stronger. There's a quote that I heard the other day. What you go through is what you grow through, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I really like that. I think that's true.
Yeah, you don't need life to be easy, smooth sailing for it to be amazing and beautiful and something that you can absolutely love.
Yes, and to see the duality, to witness and understand what it means to have peace, to be peace, is like the contrast with that, because if we didn't understand the contrast, what it means to, have moments of challenge and conflict, then we wouldn't understand what it would feel like to be in a peaceful environment. So I think that duality is the treasure.
Yeah, indeed. I can relate to that. I feel like I only now can say I know me because I lived who I wasn't. And I'm got to a point where I'm this is not me. And I want to be me because I didn't like the way I felt when I was living the not me version. And not that it wasn't me, but it was me exploring in the not me, to refine and perfect that point of who am I really? It's we're all just living to answer that question, who am I,
Yeah, exactly.
So you feel like you know yourself more today than you ever have, huh?
I feel like I'm stepping into more of myself, my confidence, So, if you define that as knowing yourself, then yes, of course.
Yeah. Well, can we talk about, is the word transition? Have you in terms of and maybe I'm being ignorant by saying gender identity, there's a change in your gender identity. Maybe it's just how you like to express yourself. But what is, there is a change in your physical appearance since I met you. There's been a change. So can you talk a
Yes.
little bit about that process? Because I think that's where, like, I've seen you really bloom, is just that point of like being comfortable with the fact that like you're a man, you're born a man, but you embrace this beautiful long hair, and you like to wear lipstick and makeup and like do your hair and like, and your nails and like, so can we talk about that?
Sure.
I don't know
Uh,
why I'm like, I feel very sensitive about it. Why do I feel so sensitive about it?
I know it can be a touchy subject,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm open to it.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's like essentially I've always felt a feminine part of me.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that it was separate, like in a remote location, somewhere. And so I played with that through questioning myself, my identity, what's going on, and I allowed myself to challenge myself. Go to the thrift store and buy women's clothing and see how I feel in that. And the moment that I start wearing women's clothes the first time, I felt this this encapsulation of femininity. That's the best way I can describe it. It's like a shower of femininity, and
Oh
it's like,
yeah.
oh,
I can feel
this
that
is
as you say it. It's just like goosebumps down my whole body. It's like my
yeah,
body just like the sensitivity is at its peak, and I just feel it through my body when you say that. So that's what I imagine it must feel like.
yes, yes. And the moment I felt that, I integrated with that in my solar plexus, and I didn't consciously do it. It just that integration. That's what I felt, and so I was like, you know what, and then it started growing over time. Like this essence, this femininity, started growing over time. I was like, and it kind of pushed me in the direction to really, go more into and deeper into my questioning and my journey into transitioning. You know, I didn't know what that meant for me initially. I didn't know I was going to turn out like this, but over time, years, I just played around with that, and it got me to where I am today. And I feel one. I want to say, yeah, I feel pretty much integrated to a satisfactory extent to who I am today.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And would you
I don't
say,
know if I answered your question
yeah,
exactly, but
yeah, we got some wonderful gems in that. Yes. Would you say that you would like? Do you identify as like? Because I think that all life humans have that aspect of masculine and feminine, and I can definitely relate to. I feel like the last decade I've lived a much more masculine, structured, practical, militant
hmm
life. And that living that, which had its role and its purpose for me, I needed that. But living that got me to the point where I then felt like someone put me on an arrow and shot me off into the feminine, and I realized, girl, I want to dance, I want to move my body, I want to wear
yeah,
colors, I want to be free. And I was like, dang, who is that?
yeah,
So I can definitely relate. I feel like, but that was a balancing point for me. I needed to balance out and bring forth my feminine because I was living very masculine. So I was balancing out, right? So would you say that, and I think that this is an aspect of everybody, like everybody has degrees of this range of,
hmm
you know, I don't know if it's sexual, not even sexuality, maybe, I don't know, it's all kind of linked, but like gender.
hmm
So like Andrew, my partner, can, be very feminine, but then also have a
hmm
masculine side, and then same with me and same with you and same with everyone. So would you say that you are more like, would you identify as a feminine, as a female? And guys, as I say it, I feel like in time, all that shit is going to be so blurred, it's not even going to matter. You know what I mean? But it's like, because we're coming from such a rigid like black and white boxes of living that it's like we're still like, what are the boundaries? Where are you, you know?
Right.
But would you say you feel more feminine? Like you would, like, do you do the pronoun stuff? Like call me she, call me, you know, or?
Well, my gender identity, I would say, is non-binary,
Mm-hmm.
which means that essentially it's not like I don't feel strictly male or strictly female.
Okay.
It's just more like a in between kind of blur thing,
Yes. Cool.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, of course, sexually I am male. You know, my body is male,
Mm-hmm.
but mentally I feel that more of a blur. You know,
Yeah.
with my identity. Yeah.
As at this time, probably as scary and restrictive that can feel, it must also be very freeing because you have, like, in a way, freed yourself from those constructs of this is a man, this is a woman, this is male, this is female. And it's like, oh, I'm actually on the range. And it's like, I can express the degrees in which I feel this day, you know? Which is like, that's
Hmm.
got to be a freeing aspect to it.
I think yes, I agree with that.
I mean, obviously, like I said, like we're coming from a more constrictive area, so it's scary to break those bounds, but
Right. To me, I feel like it's freeing, uh, but I feel like it's more like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like just who I am. You know, I'm not trying to really uh, push myself to go somewhere with it. You know, as far as challenging my identity
mm-hmm,
aspects anymore. I mean, I've done that, yes, but it's not something that I'm trying to still consciously do. You know,
mm-hmm.
to you know, it's just more of just who I am now. You know,
Yeah, it's more naturally like this is
right,
how I express. That's amazing. Congratulations.
right.
So, how has your life changed since this process? Because, I mean, what was your experience 10 years ago versus now? Like, do you feel a big change or?
I feel both the same and a change.
Mhm.
I feel that I'm more merged with that feminine aspect, but essentially I feel the same as I did when I was younger. You know,
Yeah.
I just look a little bit different, but I mean, essentially it's the same, but now it's just like an added part of me.
Yeah.
You know,
Expansive.
yeah.
So how would you say then your life has changed in terms of how you approach it, how you, deal with your day-to-day living? Has there been a change in that?
No, not at all. Well,
Right.
my life is still the same. I do the same thing, go out, and I don't feel any. I don't get a lot of judgment about it. It's just pretty much normal to
Mm-hmm.
me. I mean, and I'm surprised, because I thought that I would get a lot of judgment and negative,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't.
Do you get the opposite?
I get like, hey, I like your nails, I like, things like that. But I mean, nothing out there.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
cool. That's nice. I
And,
think
and
that,
I try not to make a big thing about it, you
yeah.
know. I'm not out there like I'm transgender, look at me.
Yeah.
No, it's just I'm just doing what I do every day,
Yeah, it's like,
and being myself and
yeah.
growing into that more each day.
Yeah, and that's where it's like you're doing it for you. You're not doing it to make a
Hmm.
statement or to like be something in this world. You're doing it because it's naturally just you,
Exactly.
which is probably why, like, for me, I saw such an authentic, like, just change and growth in you, and it was just like so cool because
Right.
it wasn't like in my face, like, uh, it was just like like a tree growing. It's like, oh, look at this beautiful fruit it is now producing.
Right.
So that's
Right.
amazing. Okay, well, so let's revert a little bit or change directions a little bit in terms of like I kind of want to maybe get into then how is it that you approach your life in terms of just like creating your life, because I've noticed this point too of like you seem to be more deliberate in your thoughts and what you express, as a point of, we do create, our life according to who we are, so do you want to talk a little bit about your, like, philosophy in life and how it is that you approach life? And
could you expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, well, okay, so what I'm trying to do here is, so the podcast is Falling in Love with Life. So the idea is that, like, you're living a life that you really like, right? And so this is not me trying to coach you, but like, if you're really enjoying your life, what is it that makes you enjoy your life? Because what I want to do with this podcast is highlight people, ordinary people who are living day-to-day, normal, average lives, but who are finding that joy and that pleasure in their day-to-day living and creating the life that they really want,
Right.
So that's why I start with asking people, do you love your life? And then what is it about your life that you really love? And how did you get to that point, And so that's why I wanted to highlight your transition, we'll say, because it seems like you have come into a more, like, I would imagine someone who steps into their more authentic self, and this is who I am, enjoys life more. But maybe that wasn't your story. Maybe it wasn't hard being Leon 10 years ago, It wasn't any harder than it is being, Leon now.
I just enjoy my life, it's just the journey,
Yeah.
It's not just really with the transition. It's just more of the journey.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to just, put myself together spiritually, mentally, emotionally, trying to put myself together. I want to answer your questions to the best of my ability. I just don't know where to hit,
Yeah.
or how to go with it.
Sure. What I want this podcast to do is to be able to support people who have a more challenging experience in life and feel like, they just can't seem to get a grip on living a life that they, like, enjoy, or, like, and so what I want to offer people is this perspective of, like, there are things that you can do to empower yourself and essentially your life to then create a life that you enjoy living. And so yeah, so I just want to, like, use you as a one part of humanity that can share a story that can offer support to people. So that's my intention with it. And maybe we can start where we met over a decade ago, which was through a group online that had this, like, basis of wanting to make the world a better place, and through making ourselves a better place, right? Like, that is our starting point.
Let me just say this: I'm not happy where I am.
Oh, okay.
And I've been listening to a lot of, like, motivational videos and content and things of that nature. And I believe that if a person is, this is just one aspect of it. I'm not saying that it's the truth or any of that, or it's an absolute statement. I'm saying that, I want to constantly be at a place where I'm not happy, where I can grow from that. I can become more, never settling, but, just seeing how I can create myself in that moment and expand, So I don't want to ever be at a place of happiness. I don't even know how to really help people.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be happy. I'm trying to keep myself from not settling.
Yeah. But in that's you're doing that because that is what makes you the most satisfied, which you could equate to being the most happy, right? Is you
right.
finding ways to grow and finding ways to expand and that is your happiness,
Right.
Yeah. Right. So it's just that point of, like, everybody, from my perspective, everybody has that ability and potential. And it's definitely not going to look the same for everybody. Like, what brings me joy is not necessarily going to bring you joy or bring Sally, Tom, and Sue joy, but it's the journey, it's the approach, it's the thinking about things that allows us to tap into our own unique process of unfoldment, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So that's okay if you're not happy, but
I'm happy, but I'm not like trying to be at a place where I'm just constantly just being happy and say, "Oh, I did it," and that's it. You know?
Yeah. Happy. Yeah. I'm not referring to happy as like the destination, the end result. It's about, like, for me in particular, I came to this realization of like, I can't actually create what I want if I'm in resistance to what is. If I'm in conflict with my life, I'm basically resonating as who I am. I'm not happy with my life. I don't like this. I don't like that. And from my perspective, that's what I'm putting out, and that's what I then create and bring back to me and draw to me, is that experience of what I'm resonating, what I'm embodying, what I'm living, you know? So for me, it was like, I have to find, it was like this point too of like, I also was in the state of waiting. I needed something externally, some condition in my life to change before I could feel joyful, before I could feel happy, before I could feel I'm living the life I want. I thought I needed something externally to change, which from my perspective was conditional living. And I'm like,
but that's where and you say messed up, or, you know, just waiting on something externally when everything that I need to push myself is within me. I just gotta, even if there are no external factors, I find something, you know. And well, according to my gender identity, I mean, I kind of found that. I kind of just went into it and not thinking, because my thing was, you know, I'm getting older, and you know, I want to align to my truths, you know. So I just said, F everything in, let's just do this, you know, because I believe that as an adult, we should be living our truth, you know, before we pass. And so that's one thing that I wanted to give myself, is that truth, you know, whatever that meant for me. And my gender identity was, you know, just one of the factors that, you know, I wanted to step into. So my whole thing was, I'm getting older, and that's why I kept telling myself, I'm getting older. Why are we playing games with myself?
You
know,
totally.
Games are for. I'm not saying this is an absolute truth. I'm saying games are for kids. You know, let's get more serious about ourselves. You know?
For sure.
Yeah.
It's like, let's get real with like what's really going on and who am I really, you know? Yeah. And it's interesting because for me, it is becoming more childlike in terms of letting myself like just be curious and be interested in things. And for me, it was like, because what I hear from you is like, you basically said you gave yourself permission to live fully in exploring who you are and what you do find joy in and what feels good to you physically, you know what I mean? And like how you do want to express yourself. And that was the same for me this last summer. I came to this realization of like, I have to actually give myself permission to explore my curiosities. Like a child explores their curiosities with no shame. Like kids are just like, I want to do this now and I'm going to go do this now. Like no second thoughts. And I judged everything I did. And I defined everything I did as right or wrong action. And so I was like, wow, I've totally enslaved myself to this idea of who I'm supposed to be, what's right action, what's wrong action. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give myself permission to live and just explore what like I'm interested in with no judgment. And it was like, it blew my whole world wide open, blew my mind wide open, blew everything out of the waters. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, right, now I'm alive. Now I'm living. Now I'm here. And now I can just move and express and explore. And so it's been really, really, really amazing. And I like that point of I'm getting older, because one of the reference points that I use is what is going to matter to me on my deathbed? Like,
Exactly.
is it going to be my need to create $1 billion empire because that's kind of what I wanted to do? Like, I need to get all the money, you know? Is that going to matter to me at the end of my life? Or is it going to be the moments with my husband and my son, like truly in this moment with them? You know what I mean? Like, and the connections around me. Like, what's really going to matter? And so, yeah, it's just been.
Why not have both?
Well, from my perspective, in doing that, being in the moment, fully enjoying it, I do create. That's where the real wealth is, which is how I create my reality. Like, it is like, yeah, I know. I know. I'm picking up what you're dropping down, okay? But it was like this point of I can't be living in a way where I'm needing to get this externally to then feel fulfilled. I have to live fulfilled. And then my world reflects that fulfillment of who I really am, which is abundance and wealth in all sorts of ways, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
And it's also about leveraging other people that are doing what you want to do, or not you, but just you in general. Doing what you want to do, or how you feel is about leveraging the people that are already doing that. And that takes going out there and actually making a decision instead of waiting on the external factor.
Yes.
You know, going out there, looking on YouTube, reading books, you know, whatever. You have to be the one that takes responsibility, because everything is about responsibility. You know, if you want to be happy, you know, you got to take responsibility. You got to go out there and leverage, you know, the world, you know, and yeah. And so that's what I did. I leveraged the thrift store, and I went to get those women's clothes, and I was like, you know what? Let me try this. I leveraged other people's stories, you know. I leveraged doctors and all of that, and just tried to understand that aspect, and it worked out in the end, you know. And now I'm doing that in other parts of my life. I'm leveraging psychology. I'm leveraging all these millionaires and billionaires, trying to, you know, tap into their mindset and understand it, so I can become that myself. You know, totally. And it's not too late, because, you know, Grant Cardone, I don't know if you know who he is.
Of course.
He started making an impact at 50 years old. Yeah. So it's not too late. You know?
Yeah, I got chills when you said that. So yeah, that's definitely a point. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I like that point. Like, hello, this is what my podcast is. I'm leveraging people who are living very specific ways, so I can tap into what it is that they're thinking about. What is it that they're believing about themselves to create the life and the expression that they're wanting to, you know? And yeah, it is that point of like, if you want the world to change, you better get in the world and change it, because that's the only way. Like, you have to have your hands in the clay, you know what I mean? Like, that was a big thing for me too. Like, this last year, I you know, became a mother. I've been on maternity leave. I've been home. It can be a very isolating experience. And I'm like, where's my people? I need people around me. But I was just like sitting, waiting. Where is everybody? And so then I started reaching out, finding groups, Facebook groups, finding local community events. And now it's like, I've made all these friends. I've made all these connections. It's like, right. It's not as complicated as we make it. If you want to have more people in your life, go find more people to be with, you know. If you want to create more wealth, then go find people who are, like you said, living wealthy lifestyles, you know, like totally. It is about leveraging. And leveraging is interesting. I seem to have a slight negative connotation to that word. Andrew likes that word leveraging, but he's always used it in a way where he's felt like people have used leverage against him. So maybe that's where my relationship is a little blurry with that word. But it is that point of like realizing there are 7 billion perspectives and lives being lived on this planet, and each of them is so unique. And that is what makes us so rich, is the diversity of experiences. But there's like a common thread of like, we're all here, we're all living day to day in this physical reality, and we're all approaching our life, based on what we understand to be true and real. And those that seem to have that point of they're doing something they like and they seem to be, it's like you can tell those people who are like, okay, they got something going on, that they're happy, they're joyful, they're making the most of their life, they're living a fulfilled life. Okay, what is it that they're doing? And yeah, I think that's a great point, because yeah, it's like, why else are we here but to learn from each other so that we can grow as individuals and like actually then support other people? Like there's this actual giving and receiving happening in our own development,
Exactly. And it takes effort, which is a part of responsibility. Like, but it takes effort. It takes consistency. It takes you really wanting to make an impact with yourself. Sister, I know you asked the question earlier. What can I say, or how can I help other people that are listening to this podcast become happy? Hey, all I can say is that it's all up to you.
Yeah, life is in your hands.
Right.
Totally. But also to feel like, don't feel like, yeah, because my thing is like, I just want people to know how empowered they are. I want people to feel empowered.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of people, don't know that, because we have so much, things that are going against us, a lot of mental conditioning, constantly making us feel small, like the media and things like that. So it's really important to, kind of recondition ourselves, not to become strong-held by public factors, like everyday factors, like, the media and all of that, So it does take us actually, and that can be a process in itself, reconditioning ourselves, that can be a process, and that's one thing that I'm doing for myself right now is reconditioning my mindset. But it takes, a lot. It just takes consistency on your behalf. That's my current journey.
Yeah.
Is reconditioning my mindset.
For sure. And I think that's where other people can play such a impactful role, in terms of we're constantly being, shown information, social media, news, TV, movies, like we're constantly being, projected an image. Yeah, from one perspective, belittled, but like that point of like, what is, like, you have a choice in what you're viewing. You have a choice in what you're consuming. So you can be very specific in ensuring that you're only taking in information that serves you what's best for you, It's like, you don't have to watch the news if you don't want to. Like, you have no obligation to really know what's going on. Your obligation is to your day-to-day living, your physical reality, how you direct your life, Sure, yeah, like if you want to know what's going on in the world, by all means. But in terms of like, if it's like that point of your well-being, your peace of mind, your stability, your like self-love and self-care, that matters more than anything in terms of having an impact on your life. And so it's like being very clear of like, I'm not going to accept anything that's given to me. I'm going to be very clear about, surrounding myself with people and information that serves my highest good,
But when we're conditioned into something, it's hard to see outside of that.
Totally. Framework. That's true. Yeah. And so that's why it takes individuals to walk that process, to be an example and a light for other people, to say there is another way. And so that was also very much my intention with this podcast, is I wanted to let people know there is another way to live. And you don't need all the money in the world, and you don't need to be rich and famous. You just need to find the joy in these moments. Find what you can be grateful for today. It's like that point of like, you can find a little tiny seed in the rubble of nothing and grow it into a beautiful, life-giving tree. You know what I mean?
And I think the first step is doing something that you don't normally do that's different. Like, for example, waking up earlier, or waking up and going outside or whatever, exercising, something that we don't normally do. Like the other day, I got home and I immediately, because sometimes I don't do this, but I immediately put and everything that I was wearing in the closet, hung them up,
Yeah.
and everything, because I don't do that all the time. I just put them, lay them on lay them around.
Yeah.
And that kind of changed my mentality. I'm like, wait a minute. It just gave me a different kind of mindset. Like I did something, because a lot of times we think that life is against us. But if we take more responsibility for small things, then we realize that, oh yeah, life is not really against us, because I just did this a little different thing right here, and now life is working for me.
Yeah.
So life works for us when we make it work for us.
Exactly. Well, we have to be that point of life working in our favor, which, yes, it is sometimes very challenging. Like, I quit smoking like 3 years ago. Hardest fucking thing I've ever done, but also like the most rewarding, because I was walking through my conditioning. Like, this moment is when I'd go smoke. This moment is when I'd go smoke. This moment is when, it's like every time I hit those moments, it's like, no, I have to redirect, do something else. Redirect, do something else. Redirect, do something else. But once I walked through that and was free of that, then it's like, oh, now I'm actually free and I can decide without any like fear of what I'm going to do. I'm just free to explore myself, like.
Right.
So for me, it's like, I feel like to a degree I've walked through a lot of my conditioning, and where I'm at now is I'm at that child's play place where I'm like, we're just little babies learning how to walk, and there's no punishment if we bump our heads or fall down. Like, we can just go explore our environment, explore the reality without fear or shame, And it's exciting, but yeah, sometimes it can be really challenging to take that journey and like walk through that conditioning. But once you do, I can tell you, it is so freeing. There is another side. There is the other side of it. It's not always this process of changing the conditioning. You do get to a point of like, okay, now I'm clear to just like recreate, I guess, or self-create now, And yeah, I like that point too of like a little change makes a huge difference. It's like that, it's like instant.
It all starts with the small things.
For sure. Yeah. Like even one thought, like if I have a thought of I look fat in these jeans, and if I like delete that thought and think, thank you jeans for covering my butt today. Or you know what I mean? Or like I focus on a shirt that like, I really like the way this shirt hugs my shoulders. All of a sudden I'm adding something more encouraging and inspiring to my life rather than this one bad thought, So it's like teeny tiny things that do make such an impact.
I can understand that perspective. And I can also see that, like, for example, I look fat in these jeans. What am I going to do about it? What are the small steps that I'm going to take to change this?
Yeah, that's true.
Like for me, the other day, well, yesterday actually, I told myself, I ate too much, and so today I took a step to fast, I do that all the time, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it just, what are the small things you're gonna do? If you don't like how you look, then what are the small steps that you're gonna do to change that?
Yeah.
Because sometimes when a person says, "Oh, we try to change to something positive," sometimes that can be manipulation. Because it's like, oh yeah, it's like, oh, I look beautiful in these, and then it becomes a point where we settle into that idea and then don't take action.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I mean that's just how I see it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's interesting because it is like, everyone wants the world to change. I think of that John Mayer song, we're all waiting on the world to change. But it's like, as an individual, the impact we have is so great because for those of us that are doing the work, we can see what an impact we can have on our own individual life and how we can completely transform it in one action, in one thought, in one day. And it's like, I just think like, man, if more people knew the power they possess in just like being the responsible source of their life that creates the change, then like, I just feel like we'd have such a quick transformation in this world, So that's my passion. That's why I'm here, is like, I just want to like showcase and uplift and encourage people to be like, you are so fucking you are so powerful. You have no idea.
Right.
Yeah.
And it takes a journey to step into that, because if a person, if you just hear it one time, it's not going to click. If you hear it 2 times, it's not going to click. It has to be like a constant. It has to be a journey.
For sure.
A self-empowerment journey.
Yeah, I think it's easy to want that instant change, like that instant.
Right.
My life is radically different, and it's like, it can be radically different in a moment, your experience, and that's where it starts. It's like, that's the small change, is like, you can change your experience and your like perspective, or a realization can come through in one moment. That's the big change that in time can grow and expand into your whole life being radically different. But yes, I think it's important, like patience is a virtue, like how important patience is, to like realize that it does take consistent steps to, create the change we want to see, but not to be discouraged by that, because the joy is in the journey too.
Right.
Seeing the goals that we hit, and like the joy is in the journey.
One thing that I do every day is when I wake up, I listen to a motivational YouTube video. Not every time, but sometimes when I'm feeling down, I turn on a YouTube video and listen to some motivational. It empowers me. And it's that point of staying empowered. I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where like we can leverage people, like, just because you feel a certain way, like, that's not set in stone forever and ever. You don't have to feel that way. You can always like change it, but it's like, yeah, we have to be the one to make a decision that I want to feel differently. I want to live differently. I want to have a different life experience, So it's like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And it's the same with this stuff too. It's like, this is not going to be for everybody. People who are looking for this will find it. It's like that point of, this is for people who are in that point in their life where they're like, I know I can create more. How do I do that? Oh, look, here's a podcast I can listen to, So it's like, everyone is in their own place, in their own process. And like, yeah, we get to come together and like showcase what we're doing so that we can support those that are now ready to step into their point of their journey to recreating and stepping into who they are. And I like that you shared that, because usually how I end the podcast is, can you share a practical thing that you do to support yourself every day? So that's one. If you have another one, that's cool. And then also, like, what would you say to someone who feels like everything is against them and they don't know, like, this whole podcast has been about that, but like, if you could sum it up, like, what would you say to someone who feels like, what's the point? Things don't really work out for me. I'm not really having a good life. Like, what would you say to them?
So I would say, before I get to that, I would like to say also that, another practical thing that I do is get rid of stuff.
Yes. Oh, that's so good.
I mean, I got rid of my TV. I want to get rid of the microwave, because there's something about the microwave, about some instant. It kind of programs your mind to, want things instantly, and it's just like I just want to get rid of stuff. I got rid of a lot of clothes, and That's another practical thing.
You're echoing my heart. I've been looking at this house for months, like, okay, I need to clear out more. And it's like that point of like also creating the void so I can bring new into my life, you know?
Right.
Like we can't open new doors until we close these old ones, whatever that means,
Exactly.
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, so what I would say to people that's saying, you know, I'm at that point now, you know, and I'm at that point in a part of my life, and so I mean, I just got to keep going. I mean, that's what I do. You know, I have these thoughts in my mind last night and this morning, like, you know, I don't know where I'm going, you know, but I sit here and smile because that's exactly where I need to be.
Yeah, but
I just need to.
how did you get there though? Because I feel like some people would be there, be like, I don't know where I'm going, and then they collapse in this like state of depression or despair or like powerlessness. Like I don't know where I'm going. So it's like, how do you look at that? I don't know where I'm going, and be able to smile. Why? Where does that smile come from?
Well, for me, it's part of meditation. Meditation really helps me. You know, but another part of that is seeing all of these people that I leveraged in my life. You know, Les Brown, Grant Cardone, all these big timers, Steve Harvey. You know, hearing what their message was, and they just kept repeating. Oh, and also Bob Proctor. If you don't know where you're going, your dream is not big enough. You know, and I've been trying to do certain things. You know, and it seems like I'm failing, and I don't know where I'm going. And I think for me that just I don't know. It's just I feel like I'm in the right place because that's like a point where I can really create and I don't know. I just feel like I gotta keep going. And that's the only. I don't know what kind of advice to give. You know, one thing that clicks for me is when you don't know what to do, where you're going. I mean, what I've experienced is that anything works. What you think about it's gonna work. You just gotta do it. You know, because a lot of times we judge our thoughts, what we do or what we're gonna do. You know, and we kind of put it aside. But when you're in a place where you don't know what to do, where you're going, for me, whatever I think about is gonna work. You know, I just even if I don't like it or want it to, you know, it's gonna work because it has to work. So you have to get in that position where you're not really like choosing because of a desire or want. You do it because you have to. You know, you do have to do it. And then when you have to do it, that becomes your motivation, you know? So I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I'm going. You know, thoughts are going to be running around in your head. Like the first thought, grab it, hold on to it, and do something. You know?
Yeah.
The solution is in the thoughts.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the blog that I wrote, was that point of we often like to talk ourselves out of the ideas that we come up with because we have self-judgment, because we have this diminished sense of self. And, you know, I think that stems from our childhood. Anyways, the point is a simple solution is you have an idea. Oh, I want to do this. Oh, that sounds fun. Like you said, grab that thought and know that you can implement it. You can take actions to create that.
I mean, it's not even a can. You have to.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah. Well, why not? What is the point of having that, you know, idea?
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you're in a position where you feel like that, you don't have any excuses. You have to do it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But so it's important then any follow-up thoughts that drop your experience in terms of like, I can't do this, it will never work out, I don't have the funds, I don't have the time, I'm no good at that. It's like you can just dismiss all of that because you know it's not
Right.
it's not valid. It's not really who you are. Who you are
Right.
is the creative, idea making, like fun experience, joyful, like the joy is in creating, is
Mm-hmm.
like creating, and that's what those
Right.
ideas are. They're just little gems of creativity that we can express into this world. And so it's like, you're right, we do have to do that. That is our job. That is our responsibility to ourselves, as honoring
Yeah.
who we are, as what is coming through us, because that is our gift and service to the world that supports other people to see this is what's possible. This is what actually
Right.
life can be about. My whole body's got chills.
Yeah. Because a lot of times we put ourselves into situations because of excuses,
Yeah. It's also like giving ourselves the grace of like, we're learning how to do this. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, we
Right.
just got to be patient and forgiving of ourselves and understanding like, you got this. You're practicing on how to walk this and perfect this. And
Mm-hmm.
like, you'll get it.
Right.
You'll get it. Like, don't be so, like, that's that point of too of like, I was always so hard on myself. Like, this is right, this is wrong, and if you get it wrong, you are so bad, and it's like,
Mm.
I can make mistakes. Like, I
Exactly.
really had to walk a process of like learning how to make mistakes and learning how to learn something. Like, it takes many falls.
Mm.
Like, I look at my son Phoenix is learning how to walk now, and like, do you know how many times he's hit his head? But he just keeps doing it. And he's never discouraged by this idea that, like, I fell down. I can't do this. It's like, no, you just do it until it's done.
Right.
So, yeah, it is. We have to treat ourselves like children, like with gentle patience, understanding, care, love, affection, attention. Like, you got this, you got this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's all that I have there.
Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing yourself and your voice and your story. And I'd love to have you back in time. Any last words?
More power to you.
Yeah, I like that. More power to you. Okay, awesome. Well, I've really appreciated reconnecting with you. Thank you, Leon.
Thank you, Leon, so much for your insights and sharing about where you're really at. That honest look at, you know what, sometimes we don't feel like we're in the best place to make the most of our situation. And, those are the moments where we really see what we're made of and how we're able to recreate and redefine and redirect ourselves. And what are we going to do with ourselves in those moments? So I appreciate you sharing, Leon, how committed and determined you are to, just keep growing and expanding in who you are, and not giving up on yourself and being willing to explore all avenues. It was so refreshing to speak to you. I really am grateful for such a grounded presence you brought to this podcast. And I'd like to remind anyone listening that if you're feeling like I'm not happy with my life, I'm not satisfied with where I'm at, know that there is solutions. And that is the first step, is to acknowledge the fact that you're going to have to make a decision about what you're going to do with where you're at. Are you going to stay and remain in the situation you're in, feeling things aren't working out for you and feeling like that's unfair? Or are you going to make a decision to get up and direct yourself and make a decision and change courses and give yourself some gifts of support, like Leon mentioned, leveraging the people around us, looking to those people that are living the lives we want to be living and asking, how did you do it? Realizing that we are really truly gifts for each other, and we are enriched when we tap into the resources that we have available for each other as our own personal life experiences. So thank you so much, Leon, for opening up all of this for us and with us. And thank you for the listener who is here walking with, and we will see you next time.